The first topic I want to discuss this week is what happened in Parliament. So Albania made headlines internationally this week, unfortunately for the wrong reasons, I have to say. A parliamentary session descended into absolute chaos. During a scheduled vote on the 2024 budget, members of the opposition piled chairs in the middle of the room, set off smoke bombs, and then lit a small fire. You can check out the video behind me to see exactly what went down. I just want to give you a bit of background on what led to this situation before we get into your reactions, and I can tell by the facial expressions already. So Sali Berisha, former Prime Minister and President, who's sanctioned by the US and the UK and currently under criminal investigation in Albania, said that the government, led by Prime Minister Edi Rama, was trying to silence them. He said the goal of the disturbance in Parliament was to bring pluralism to the Assembly. Now, last month, Berisha and his son-in-law were charged with corruption over a land deal involving the grounds of a sports club in Tirana. He's been accused of using his influence as Prime Minister between 2005 and 2009 to exert pressure on institutions to conclude the deal in favour of his son-in-law and himself. His son-in-law was placed under house arrest a day after the chaos in Parliament. But Berisha, as an MP, has immunity, but he has been ordered not to leave the country. He claims Rama made up the charges against him, sort of influenced the judicial system, something which the Prime Minister denies. The opposition also wants to create parliamentary investigative commissions to probe alleged cases of government corruption. But the ruling socialists, who have a majority in Parliament, say the requests are not in line with the Constitution. As a result, the opposition said it will not allow Parliament to carry out its work. We had reactions from the EU and the British Embassy this week, which I'm sure we're all quite familiar with. They're deeply shocked, very concerned. We must work together, collaboration, etc. But they've all called on the opposition and the Socialist Party to make friends and, find a way forward, which, when you look at the footage, seems easier said than done. Now, I also asked Twitter what they thought about what went down as well. Highly scientific poll. I said, do you think setting off flares, smoke bombs and lighting fires like we saw in Parliament is the right way to do things? 79% said no. And 18% said yes. Maybe that was Berisha sort of voting repeatedly. I'm not sure. But I want to ask you, we are from the UK. We had Boris Johnson. So, we're not coming from a position of, a much better situation. But what do you think? And how did people react, people that you know outside of Albania, how did they react to this situation?
It's laughable. It's just laughable. I mean, there's supposed to be politicians leading the country. To me personally, it looks like football hooligans. It reminds me of a really bad football match, and these people are supposed to be promoting democracy, leading in a sensible and intelligent fashion how to lead a country. It doesn't set an example for anybody. They're wanting to get into the EU and be taken seriously as an up-and-coming country with development, etc. That can't be taken seriously. The opposition party, that behaviour is just so unprofessional. It does nothing for the country. It does nothing for the credibility of the party or the country internationally or for the population. It's just silly behaviour, in my opinion.
Jessica, I saw a comment of yours and it was something along the lines of, it was a bit embarrassing to say that you live in Albania after all this has been going on. What did people say to you about what happened? Because, this was news all over the world.
Yeah, I actually heard about it from people that I know before I saw it on the news myself, because I just, check the news like once a day. So, I have people that are reaching out that are like, oh, is everything okay over there? Like, are you at risk? Like, should you be leaving the country because that's your government over there? What's happening? And then I always think, I have foreign clients and they already have less trust in our work because we're not based in the US or in the UK, and I have to send them invoices. And then I think, great, they're like, so where do you live? Albania? And it's
Really?
like,
They
all of that,
hesitate?
they do hesitate,
Wow.
yeah, because they're like, hey, if you steal my money, am I ever going to get it back? And we're trying really hard to like do our work and to be reliable and whatnot, but the international news that make it out is stuff
really
like
interesting.
this, when I'm like, great, this is what people see, and this is what they then associate with us being here, working here. And it's a
Do
shame.
you have foreign clients for your business?
99% of my clients are UK based.
And do they ever,
They will only talk to me.
they don't trust
They
that?
will only talk to me.
Wow.
So I have people here that do work for me, but they will only talk to me. And they will never talk about money to the Albanians.
Wow. So,
Which is a really sad thing, because the guys,
Yeah.
so the guys that I've got working for me, they're highly intelligent. They work much harder than a lot of the people in the UK who have just got their hands stuck out for benefits. They're nice, genuinely nice people, and things like this really do nothing to help
It harms the country.
reputation globally. The news external to Albania is just not good for Albania.
No,
And
no.
when you see stuff like this, I'm not a fan of any politician greatly, but Mr. Rami must be just sticking his head in his hands going, what on earth is going on? I'm trying hard to get tourism, etc.
I have a bit of an anarchist streak in me. I love a good protest. I don't think violence is necessary in a protest, but a bit of civil disobedience, if there is a real reason to, I'm not against it. You know, I think I organised my first protest at the age of 11. We sat down in the school playground and refused to move over the war in Iraq or something. You know, I like to protest, but this is a bit far for me. However, I don't want to take away the credibility or the importance of the claims that the opposition have said. You know, they said there is problems with corruption, members of your government have been arrested, huge amounts of money are potentially going missing or being misappropriated. You're not debating things properly in Parliament, like this vote on the budget was passed with 5 minutes of discussion. The Italy migrant deal was not discussed in Parliament. You know, they have concerns about democracy, about the power of the government, about corruption, which I think are valid. I mean, they have their right to say them. How do you reconcile this, which they see as a very strong need, which they also argue is damaging the country? You know, corruption, scandals, these are damaging everyday people. How do you reconcile sort of this protest, if you like, with what we saw on the screen? How can they go about it in a different way? How can they stop Parliament? How can they shock people?
You said it yourself, they have the right to say. In Parliament, it's speaking. That's what Parliament's about, it's discussion. They need to organise a discussion or better. That's street violence, what they're doing. That's just, that does nothing to encourage, it does nothing to encourage a better level of discussion. It's just it'll create a vicious circle of things getting worse and worse. And it's like they're cutting off their nose to spite their face. It's not what you'd expect from a politician on a global scale. It's tribalistic and animalistic behaviours, in my opinion. It does nothing for the country. It does nothing to forward discussion.
Jessica, when an opposition has valid concerns, or what they see as valid concerns about democracy, the rule of law, corruption, is this acceptable in that context?
I don't know. I was comparing it the other day to children at daycare. Like, if one child hits another, is it okay to just hit back? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And at the end of the day, I think the whole corruption thing, it runs so deep that I wouldn't say that half the people that are complaining about corruption, probably, if you started digging, you would find some stuff. Because at the end of the day, that was one thing that I was really surprised about when I came here, just how corruption is an everyday thing for every single person. You want to get something done, well, the guy that you're speaking to that's supposed to be dealing with your application is kind of hinting at the fact that it would be faster if you dropped some money. And it's extremely shocking when you come here, because we're not used to that. There's a process, you book an appointment, you fill out your forms, you bring the fee, stuff gets signed, and if it's within the rules, it gets approved. And I think the discussion about corruption goes way, way, way deeper. And it is just acceptable pretty much everywhere in day-to-day life. So why are we looking at corruption at the highest level when everyone else is kind of also
Complicit, if not corrupt.
if not doing it themselves?